Now we're going to look at some fractional exponents. So to just give ourselves some examples, the square root of x would be x to the 1/2. The cube root of x is x to the 1/3. The fourth root of x is x to the 1/4. Now what would you say the fifth root of x would be? Following this pattern, square root is 1/2, third root is 1/3, fourth root is 1/4, fifth root is going to be x to the 1/5. And the only thing that would make it more complicated is if we had maybe the fifth root of x squared. That would be x. Well, where do you think the 5 is still going to go? It goes in the bottom, but the power would be 2 now. Since it's not x to the first, it's x squared. It'd be x to the 2/5. So our rule here, anytime we have a root of x to a power, it's going to be rewritten as a fraction, and it's going to be power over root. The power always gets to go on top, the root goes on bottom. So the reason why in this examples to start, we had a 1 up there is because it was x to the first, under the third root, first under the fourth root, first under the fifth root, until finally we had an x squared under a fifth root. So we did 2/5. So power on top, root on bottom. So if we look at some of these examples that help us with these numbers. Well, first of all, you can just grab your calculator. 100 to the 1/2. Plug it in on your calculator. Now let's compare to rewriting to calculate. The 1/2 power is the square root. The square root is the second root, and it's 100 to the first power. So 100 to the first power under the second root is under a square root, and the square root of 100 is 10, which should match what your calculator would give you by just plugging in 100 to the 1/2. Now, if we do the same thing next door, you have 4 to the 3/2. So you could just grab your calculator, do 4, caret 3/2, and it should give you out a number. Now, to get that without a calculator, we would say, hey, well, it's the second root, so that's the square root of 4, and then it's raised to the third power. And then the square root of 4 is 2, so we have 2 to the third. So 2 times 2 is 4, times the third 2 is going to give us 8, which is exactly what your calculator should give you if you plug in 4 to the 3/2. So it just gives us a way to rewrite when it's numbers, but you can also just use your calculator. With something like x's, we do have to know this property, though, because we don't have a calculator to just say what the number would be. So we would have something like x to the power over root. So power is 8, root is 4. We have x to the 8 divided by 4 is 2. That would simplify to just be x squared. Feel free to pause this video and try the next one. The power is 20, and it's a square root. Be careful, the square root means the second root. So we're going to divide by 2. The power is 1 when it's not written, and the root is 2 when it's not written. So we'd have x to the 20 divided by 2 is 10.